Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. Boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Good morning, good afternoon, good night to wherever you may be by the time you find this video. Now, David Benavidez and Jai Opetaia. Let me tell you something. That is the fight to make. Now, David Benavidez has some work to do in order to get to Jai Opetaia. Matter of fact, he and Zurdo Ramirez, who's a cruiserweight, they're supposed to be fighting on May 2nd. Now, if David Benavidez can get up there and clip Zurdo Ramirez, then David Benavidez will become the WBO and the WBA champion, which is absolutely amazing. Now, what's crazy is Jai Opetaia is the IBF champion and the ring cruiserweight champion, which the only belt that really matters is the ring belt, and that's what Jai Opetaia holds. Now, you got Badou Jack, who's fighting, I believe, this weekend. He holds a WBC strap. So Badou Jack is the guy who's kind of, creating complications because he's just been there holding on to this damn WBC belt for a long ass time. I wish he would just get his ass about the way and allow the division to be unified if someone to become undisputed. But I don't know what Badou Jack is going to do next after this weekend, even if he wins. But in a perfect world, I'd like to see Jai Opetaia in his next fight whoever's going to be holding that WBC belt, beat him, then Jai Opetaia would have the IBF belt, the ring belt, and the WBC. David Benavidez can fight Zurdo, beat Zurdo, which I think he will, then he'll be the WBO and WBA. And then David Benavidez and Jai Opetaia can fight for undisputed cruiserweight, the undisputed cruiserweight distinction. But I don't have control of the goddamn boxing world, so you just don't know what's going to happen. But one thing for sure is David Benavidez has said that, he will fight Jai Opetaia. He wants to fight Jai Opetaia, And I'm going to tell you this. David Benavidez stepping into the cruiserweight division isn't just another storyline. It's a moment that could redefine how the boxing world views size, view power, view speed, and the limits of human confidence. David Benavidez is not coming up short in any of those areas. Matter of fact, for years, David has been labeled the Mexican Monster, a nickname earned through pressure, relentlessness, and a level of self-belief that borders on supernatural. Mike Tyson is the person who actually gave him that name. Now, David Benavidez did the business at 168. He went to 175. I'm not going to say he necessarily did the business, but he had 3 fights there. And now he's climbing north into a division filled with naturally bigger men, much stronger punchers, and elite movers. Jai Opetaia being the top of the cruiserweight food chain, a man considered by many the most violent cruiserweight alive. Jai Opetaia breaks bones. He breaks necks, he breaks jaws, he breaks shoulders, he breaks noses, he breaks orbital bones. He will kill you in the ring. But even with the odds, the size disadvantage, and the global hype behind Jai, there is a growing belief by many fans that David Benavidez has the right ingredients to shock the world and beat the Australian powerhouse. The first thing that makes David Benavidez special, and his just mental intensity. Y'all got to understand, David Benavidez has been out here sparring champions since he's been 15 and giving the champions the business. Jermaine Taylor, Latif Keoti, Kelly Pavlik, Triple G, and the list goes on and on. That's why every time he's been in, David has walked into the ring absolutely convinced he cannot lose. It's not arrogance. You know what I mean? It's confidence, it's survival instinct. At 168, he fought like a man hunting, not competing. No kidding. When he got in there, he was just stalking. He just sitting there running through these guys. It was just, awful to watch. Just how he would slaughter those opponents. It wasn't even a competition. But that mentality translates well against larger men because bigger fighters often expect the smaller man to be cautious. David is the exact opposite. He enters the ring trying to overwhelm, push back, and mentally break opponents early. Against Jai Opetaia, a fighter who thrives on confidence, rhythm, and his own warrior heritage, disrupting his mental flow is one of the few paths to victory. If David can force Jai into a fight rather than a controlled boxing exhibition, Benavidez begins to dictate the terms of war, and that's the first victory won. The problem for me, and for some people they say it's not an issue, but I'm just looking at the physicality, man. You know, when you look at David, physically David's built in a way that fools people. He isn't a traditional weightlifter. He doesn't look like a Greek statue or a heavyweight NFL player. But his strength and torque come from natural leverage, core rotation, forearm strength, and non-stop pressure. His punches don't have to be clean to hurt. You just saw in his last fight against Yardy. Of course, Yardy was there to be hit, but I mean that was uneasy to watch, man. To see someone in front of you basically looks like he was on course to being beaten to death. That was scary to watch. Benavidez combinations are long, straight, and flowing. He throws 6 to 8 punches, but most fighters throw 2. Against the slick southpaw, that volume turns into chaos. We got to understand, Opetaia is extremely skilled, but he relies heavily on timing, control, using his angles and sudden ambushes. He is deadly when he knows what's coming. He is less deadly when forced into defensive guessing. This is what David Benavidez and his team could be kind of, hoping for. David's long combinations disrupt timing the same way Sean Porter disrupted technical fighters at 147. The issue here is David is bigger, sharper, and more accurate, and a lot of people are counting on those attributes to give David Benavidez not only a good chance, but to end up earning him the victory. Now, another key advantage is Benavidez' stamina. He doesn't get tired. You look at David Benavidez, you figure, man, rounds 5 or 6, he'd probably fold over like a bed sheet and, get stopped. No, that's not the case. He has as far as his stamina, is probably one of the best in the entire sport. It's unreal for a man his size to maintain constant pressure for 12 full rounds. I don't know what they're doing in that training camp, but David Benavidez is an animal. Now, Jai is explosive and powerful, but he's also intense early in fights. His style requires burst, foot resets, and moments to breathe. David requires none of that. He just keeps walking, punching, touching, forcing nonstop. And let me tell you something, big fighters hate that. You don't get a chance to think. When you want to rest, David Benavidez forces you to fight. And let me tell you, cruiserweights are not used to a man throwing 70-plus punches around. They aren't used to someone trying to drown them. And that's what makes this whole thing interesting. To see Jai Opetaia in there, who I still think Jai Opetaia should be the favorite to win. But now he could be in a situation where now he's like, damn, I got this guy Benavidez trying to drown me while I'm also here trying to be defensively responsible. Maybe there's a little bit of a break from focus to all of a sudden now. Jai becomes vulnerable. Because I'm going to tell you this, man. He's had moments in fights where he looked hittable, especially when trading. And this is boxing, everybody looks like that at certain points in times. But this could open the door for Benavidez to force exchanges and take over late. So what do most do at cruiserweight? Let me tell you something. Most guys at cruiserweight who are coming up from a lower weight class, if they're smart, they put on functional mass. For Terrence Crawford put on functional mass to face Canelo. Roy Jones put on functional mass to face John Ruiz. Devin Haney put on functional mass to face Brian Norman Jr. David Benavidez must put on the functional mass as well as he bubbles up the cruiserweight. Not bodybuilder weight, but durable weight. He's gonna need some thickness in his legs and core to absorb a guy like Opetaia's explosive southpaw left hand. That shot ruins jaws, noses, cheekbones, orbital bones. It breaks any and everything on his opponent. Jai Opetaia is not a normal puncher. He is, no kidding, a bone breaker. David must build durability. He's got to condition his body to be able to take and absorb those shots from Opetaia. He doesn't need to become a 210-pound bodybuilder, but he does need structured size to avoid being physically overwhelmed. If he adds 8 to 12 pounds of dense, functional muscle, he can improve punch resistance without losing stamina. There's also the question of speed, which is where David becomes extremely dangerous. Most smaller fighters lose speed when they go up in weight, but David is one of those fighters whose speed comes from technique, rhythm, and fluidity, not just raw twitch muscles. This means putting on 10 to 15 pounds won't destroy his speed. Jai's primary defense weakness is a tendency to admire his work after landing. That half-second pause is deadly against Benavidez. Jai Opetaia can't afford to admire his work. If he lands something good on Benavidez and kind of buzz Benavidez, he needs to just converge on him and try to get him out of there. But I'm going to tell you this right here. David's best shots come when the opponents are backing out of exchanges. If Jai hits and tries to slide out, David can crash through the exit with them 6, 7, 8 punch combinations that catch Jai between movements. That's how smaller fighters shock bigger fighters, not with one punch, but with sustained explosions, what David Benavidez can do. Now, the reason why people believe David can shock the world is simple. David Benavidez fights like a heavyweight. It's like he's already a heavyweight, just a smaller size, man. His punch selection, combination volume, pressure, and cardio are heavyweight attributes. His explosiveness and speed are super middleweight attributes. Combine the two and you get a unique hybrid style, similar to Holyfield and Usyk, both of whom were small heavyweights who succeeded by being fast, fluid, conditioned, and relentless. But understand this, Jai Opetaia is an animal. Born in Australia, the Samoan heritage, New Zealand toughness, man, elite footwork, savage power, and a mean streak. But, the reality is he can be hit. He sometimes brawls when he shouldn't. It's because he has that confidence and that warrior mentality. So he takes risks because he believes in his chin. And taking risk against David Benavidez is like playing tag with a chainsaw. Even if Jai hits harder, the fighter who throws more, controls the tempo, and creates more exchanges often wins. With David Benavidez, the Mexican monster, he doesn't just survive exchanges. He expands inside of them. He creates chaos and thrives in the chaos. And that's a fact. Matter of fact, another major point, David's chin has not shown sign of being weak. David Morrell did catch him with a big hook while off of the ropes and buckled David Benavidez's legs, but that's all that happened. It just buckled and he just kept swinging. So it's hard to slow him down, man. I think people assume that he's vulnerable because he's been touched, but he's never really been hurt. David Benavidez has never really been hurt. Now, Jai hits much harder, yes, but cruiserweight power doesn't automatically fold fighters who know how to roll shots, absorb correctly, and maintain pressure. That being said, the pressure is real, the danger is real, but David's not walking into the ring blind. He's faced fast punches, big punches, counters, movers, rough fighters, and big athletes in sparring, so he has an idea of what he's getting into. And I just think you got to understand the mentality, man. David Benavidez mentally is built for war. He likes challenges. He rises when his back is against the wall. Jai is the type of fighter who demands fear and respect. But Benavidez, he doesn't feel fear. He doesn't bow. That mentality alone might be the reason this fight becomes a war and not a technical showcase for Jai. The blueprint for David to win? Let me tell you. In my opinion, for David Benavidez to win this fight, I think he's got to start fast enough to disrupt Jai's rhythm. If he lets Jai get his rhythm going, it's over. Over. You got to keep the jab in Jai's face. You got to go to the body relentlessly. And I think he needs to force Jai to fight at a faster pace than he prefers. Get him out of his comfort zone. And if Jai looks like he's trying to take a break, make him fight when he wants to rest. Extend exchanges and never let Jai finish the round comfortably. Always try to make him uncomfortable. And the number one thing to me, try to test Jai's chin repeatedly. You got to try to test that chin. And you know what? If you have to, just make it a 12-round drowning session. But that's easier said than done. But I do think if he does that, David Benavidez can absolutely break the man who has broken so many others. But again, this won't be easy, man. Jai Opetaia is a monster. Styles make fights, people. And Benavidez has one of the worst styles for a fighter who relies on rhythm, angles, and controlled destruction. Although I got Opetaia winning this fight as of right now, I'm going to keep breaking it down and analyzing it and studying it, man. But I will say this. Benavidez can win. Because I'm going to tell you one thing about David Benavidez, the Mexican monster. He's the one willing fighter who has no issue walking through hell to get a victory. And if he does, he becomes a three-weight monster, 168, 175, and then Cruiserweight. A man who shocked the world by beating someone the boxing world sees as nearly unbeatable. And I am telling you, man, that would be an amazing, amazing accomplishment going up to Cruiserweight. And the world right now wants to see him get in there with Jai. Man, Benavidez may have the tools, mindset, pressure, speed, championship mentality to shock the world at a higher weight, man. So that's why I like to try to break down the psychology, the risks, the strengths, try to figure out what blueprint a fighter could use to defeat the other one, especially someone so dangerous like Jai Opetaia. I don't know. We'll find out. Can David drown the bigger man? Can his volume and pressure break Jai's rhythm? Or will Jai's Samoan power be too much? I don't know. But if they make that fight, I'll for sure be tuned in. Y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. The Mexican monster can't be stopped right now. Watch Jai Opetaia. Let's see if that fight materializes. Y'all keep cool. In the break.